I'm Rose. I'm a programmer with DarkFi, which is an anonymous layer 1 blockchain for anonymous smart contracts. For me, privacy is about the future, because in a world without privacy, where we just have total surveillance over all of our actions, the future becomes restricted to the small space of what kinds of changes are allowed by whatever power is controlling the surveillance infrastructure. So by enabling anonymity and by allowing it to spread online and to reclaim the internet with these anonymous wild spaces, we're actually opening up the future to a new set of potentials and possibilities. That's what is important about privacy. So my favorite tools has to be the DarkFi tools. Every day I use tools that I've contributed to building, such as DarkIRC, which is a fully anonymous peer-to-peer chat, which is 100% unlinkable, no identities, runs over Tor, potentially in the future over NIM. So it's a chat, but we're also building out an entire ecosystem of smart contracts where you can have financial tools, coordination tools, and other kinds of anonymous software that, was previously not possible to have. So that's the ecosystem that I live in, and that's my favorite freedom tool that exists today. I think that's why I'm working on this project, because there's nothing like that exists. So I feel like it's worth dedicating my time to that. So cypherpunk as a phenomena has gone through different stages of evolution. I think in about a few years ago, many people in the cryptocurrency industry began to feel that this culture of cypherpunk was the true kind of backbone of cryptocurrency. It's its ideological bedrock and also its future or its destiny. But that cypherpunk, in the way that it was sort of preserved from the 90s, was somewhat out of touch with the kinds of conversations that were happening in and around crypto and the Web3 space, Ethereum, Monero, Bitcoin, etc., where so a few of us kind of converged around this idea of a neo-cypherpunk. And a similar term is lunar punk, which relates to this attempt to re-envision cypherpunk for the contemporary age. And typically, forms of neo-cypherpunk and lunar punk involve moving away from the kind of lone wolf individualism of the cypherpunks towards a subject that's a bit more expansive and focused on empowering communities and empowering collectives. So, thinking about DAOs and squad wealth and these kinds of on-chain entities. Similarly, cypherpunk felt a little bit like sometimes a little bit reactive and a bit sad, a bit limited in its attitude, even though I say that with a lot of respect for cypherpunk. Really, it's the reason I got into crypto. Many of us is the same. It's a very inspiring story. But there was something a bit trapped. It felt a little bit trapped, like it was stuck in just the shadow of surveillance, but it wasn't really proposing a viable future alternative. So the neo-cypherpunks and the lunar punks, they're much more interested in creating kind of a utopian scenarios that are more far-reaching and affirmative, that expand the space of possibilities, and they're not simply about criticizing the status quo, but really about presenting new kinds of freedom and new ways of being that are oriented towards communities, empowering communities. Freedom software has an issue where in crypto we've built a lot of infrastructure, built a lot of tooling, but we have this issue with users. And not only do we have like low adoption of the software? We also have another issue, which is that over many years, crypto has become seen as kind of more and more ridiculous. And it's very common nowadays for people to just hate crypto, just normal people. They don't even know what it is, but they think it's something, must be something bad. So in a way, crypto has kind of lost touch with its user base completely, and it's become its own small subculture, which is only serving itself. And so we do need to think about ways that we can break out of this strange bubble that we've constructed. And one of the ways to do that, I think, is by sort of crossing into different cultural milieus, like different cultural niches. So creating new kinds of cross-cultural contamination between crypto and other areas of society. So, today we're at the Logos conference. They've made a big effort to create links between crypto and music, crypto and art. I think that's one avenue. The other avenue is kind of to look at, what are the people in the world who genuinely need these tools? Who are the people who are the biggest targets of surveillance? And trying to do directed outreach towards those communities. And also, I think it's important not just to build within an echo chamber, but to build for a specific use case and allow that use case to kind of feed back into your development process. So, you become engaged in a feedback loop, which leads to more products that are more refined for a specific user group. And I think we've been failing to do that in crypto so far. Or so far, what we've been doing, we have been making products, but they're very much catered towards this crypto niche of financial tools, but they haven't really escaped that niche and began entering into this interesting feedback with broader cross-cultural communities. So the internet of the future is a dark forest, which is fully encrypted, dark and anonymous, but completely overflowing with life. It's peer-to-peer. So, there are no predatory architectures that are stealing data or otherwise kind of sucking the lifeblood out of their users. It's free software, so anyone can modify and change this and read and repurpose the software that they're using. And it's it's oriented towards freedom and expanding freedom through this process of serving communities that really need the tools and making emancipatory software. So that might mean something like anonymous DAOs that allow people to collectively spend money from a treasury according to rules, a programmable anonymous treasury. These kinds of mechanisms, I think that we're only at the beginning of discovering. So I think with the invent of anonymous engineering, we can actually multiply the kinds of futuristic applications that will exist online and that allow people to restore their sovereignty, their ownership of their data, their finances, and their future. So that's the ideal internet, in my opinion.